This podcast episode may contain explicit material. Listener viewer discretion is advised. The intention is not to offend, but to provide information. Proceed only if you are comfortable with potentially sensitive content.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Behind the Scenes with Sheriff Jason Ard. I'm Jason Ard. We started this podcast to educate everyone on the role of the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office. We're about serving and protecting our community. On this podcast, we will tackle lots of topics. Welcome to Behind the Scenes with Sheriff Jason Ard. We're continuing our episodes on the flood of 2016, which started on August the 12th, 2016. We're fixing to celebrate 10-year anniversary of the flood. And I know it was a very trying time for many, many people. Our parish, so many lessons learned, so many things that we went through in that time. And so for me as a sheriff, I had a huge responsibility of serving and protecting our community, for making sure that we helped out with rescues. We had a detention center that we were dealing with that had basically flooded, but we had to keep things going, as well as working with a good friend of mine who's here in the studio with me today. At the time was actually the parish president. That's Mr. Layton Ricks. Layton, thank you for being here today.
Yes, sir. My pleasure.
In the studio, and you were actually the sitting parish president at the time of the flood of 2016.
Yes, sir.
And so it was your second term?
It was my second term, and we were, I'll remember it like it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. I was sitting over in the office, and Mark Harrell, our Homeland Security Director, called and said, we got a lot of weather coming. I may wind up just spending the night. And I said, well, I'll go home and take a shower if you're going to spend the night, because anytime he was out there all night, I'd want to be out there with him. Right. Had no idea we were fixing to face what we were facing.
Yes, nobody did.
I go home to take a shower, and the guy drives up behind me and says, Mr. Ricks, do you live here? And I said, yeah. He said, you got about 30 minutes to get out. You're about to flood. I said, what? And I called Mark. He said, yeah. He said, it's coming in fast. It's coming in hard. It's coming in fast, and you're about to flood over there. So, yeah. So I got my stuff, got my wife, dog, everything we could gather, and got out of there. And, of course, you know what all happened after that.
And that was Thursday night for you?
That was Thursday night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Had no idea what we were fixing to face,
right.
Jason. And, of course, you and I worked it together hand in hand. And, I mean, it was to say we're celebrating the 10 years, we're celebrating only in the sense of how resilient our people are and how the parish came back afterwards.
Oh, it was amazing to watch them come back.
I joked back then and talked about how I would see people that I knew didn't like one another.
Right. But
they were working together out in the yard and the houses and the streets trying to help one another. Because my goal, I looked at more than anything else, how do I get these people back, first of all, to safety while it was going on, and then how do we get them back in their homes? And everywhere we took people, it flooded. We'd have to go get them and move them. You know, you were having
we've talked about that, and it's just that you'd have the shelters in place, and that shelter would flood. We had to find another shelter, and it was several second-time shelters that they would flood too.
Oh, absolutely.
So it just kept moving around. The water kept moving on us too. It would go up and go down on different places because, again, like I've explained before, it was in a wash bowl.
That's right.
That's the only way you can explain it. It was like it'd go up and come down, and once it started going down in the Watson area, I don't think it ever came back up there.
It didn't, but you couldn't take people up there and put them in it because everything had flooded, and so it was as you know, I mean, it was a trying time. Of course, in my role as parish president, I was getting calls and people telling me that you got to do this, you got to do that. And of course, you're emotional. You're wanting to do all these things.
Right.
And then I got my Homeland Security Director tell you, but you got to remember the FEMA rules. Mm-hmm. And I said, I can't remember the FEMA rules right now. I got to get people to safety. And I can never say enough about our volunteer groups and certainly the Sheriff's Department, National Guard, all these groups that came in, our churches. I don't know what we would have done had we not had our church people do like they always do in every disaster. I mean, they come together and they basically save the day for you, or certainly help.
Oh, yeah. The churches, they stepped up and became a lot of our shelters because we didn't have anything else.
Couldn't get anything across the river from the state. I mean, what we had is what we had, and it was very limited with 80 to 83% of the parish flooded. My family, I had daughters that, you had to help go get. They were flooding, and, of course, I was worried about my mom at the time, but I'm out here at the parish, and so emotionally you're caught up in what do you do? And all you can do is keep going 24 hours a day, basically.
Yeah, that's all you can do. And you have these. I don't know. It's so many things going on in our role, and one of the things that amazes me, and so you actually flooded.
Yes.
All right, and you're sitting parish president. You have, and I know you wasn't you and I hadn't made eye contact long on I think maybe Friday morning or maybe it was Saturday morning.
Sometimes Friday night or Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah. You wanted me to do a rescue for you, and I could tell by looking at you. If I didn't do this rescue, I wasn't going to get my parish president to focus on nothing. But I talk about this, Layton, because you hadn't been here to know what we've been talking about. But I didn't flood at all. I never had 1 inch of rain in my home. Now I was on an island, but never got in my house. My mother and daddy, my mom and dad, they did not flood. I have 4 brothers. They did not flood. None of my family flooded, which was amazing.
It is amazing.
Brian Drury, same thing with him. And Warren, same thing with him. Warren Stewart, chief at Holden, James Wascom, Walker.
Right.
Didn't flood or whatever. But there was a few of y'all that did, but it was amazing that some of us guys did not. I'm going to tell you, I couldn't have handled anybody in my family. I think that would have been my breaking point. And I tell that story of, I think God will never bring us to a point that he knows we can't handle it.
Right.
But I also know he knows where that line is, and he's going to keep us on it.
We don't know. He does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I can see it in your eyes, and I don't remember who it was that we rescued. We have so many of them, but you told me, I need you to do this for me. I need, and it was because you just needed a little piece so you could do your job.
I had to know that at least she was safe,
right,
so that I could concentrate on all this other stuff. And of course, I knew you were going to get her. It wasn't any doubt, but I had to make sure. I had to say it. Right. And you say y'all didn't flood personally, but you wore this thing just like we did because you had deputies and close friends.
89. It was 89 deputies that lost everything.
And you're responsible. You just feel responsible, even though we didn't cause the flood, obviously.
Right.
You feel responsible. And in my case, I had people calling me, and I'll never forget this one lady that called. She was not on my team politically. I'll just say it that way.
Yeah.
But her daughter was trapped, and she was trapped in the attic, and her daughter and her granddaughter. And she said, I hate to even ask you this because I know where we were during the campaign in 2011, but I need help, and I'm going to get emotional thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I said, you tell me where they're at, we'll get them.
Right.
And she said, you will? And she called. She said, the water's coming up, and she kept calling. And we were on our way. We went, and y'all rescued her. Y'all got them. And of course, we had a sitting senator on the roof.
Yeah. I told the story about it already. Yeah.
I wasn't going to call a name, but he's sitting up there waving at people, said, somebody come get me.
Yeah, because he had texted me that, I think that morning, whenever he texted me and said that he was taking on water, if I could send a crew to come get him. And I was like, well, he's a second story. You have a second floor. He goes, yeah. I said, well, move up there. And he's like, what? I said, move up to your second floor. And when you get in the attic, call me. And he's like, what? So, man, we're rescuing people off of rooftops.
Off the roof.
Having to cut a few people out of their attic. You're okay right now, but when you're not okay, we're going to come get you. But we was having to prioritize, do the prioritizing calls, which we've never really had to do before, right, but it was that many calls coming in. And let me remind you, Friday, you're dealing with what you're doing when you come into and you're getting set up at the EOC, right? You get there Friday morning.
No, I was there Thursday night.
Thursday night.
Yeah.
So 911 center goes down.
Yep.
Right around midnight, 2 o'clock. I
don't recall it ever happening, but it did.
Yeah, it did. And we were able to get all that equipment done, moved with dispatchers to the EOC here in Livingston, flipped a switch, everything's back on, we're up and running. So most people never even knew that happened.
Oh, no.
But we knew. And when people got up the next morning and their feet hit the floor, they would be standing in water. They'd never done that before. And then right after that, if you remember what happened at 5:30 in the morning, the jail starts taking on water. So now I'm having to deal with 700 inmates.
That's right.
And then these bridges are getting shut down.
And how do you get them to wherever you're going to try to take them to?
We get all the inmates out and we get them across the river in Baton Rouge. We have one bus, if you remember, breaks down with a bunch of inmates. And we were able to still get that bus up and running and get it across the bridge before they closed it, because they closed the bridge. And I remember them not wanting to let the bus across the bridge. The bus is going across that bridge. But we had a lot of those things going on. But now you're dealing with these people trapped on I-12.
Yeah.
They can't move the vehicles. And
they're lined up. It's
up.
not like 5 or 6 of them. They were lined up.
Go out on I-12 right now and take out all the bridges, and whatever you got in between is basically what we had. I mean, it was that many people. It was a normal day.
Yeah.
We knew there was a storm coming, right?
Right.
It wasn't really a storm. It was just typical. It wasn't even a tropical depression. It was just
exactly
a thunderstorm.
Right. Just thought it was going to be a heavy rain,
Right.
and that'd be it.
And it just hovered on top of us, and we all know that. But it was all these things are going on. We have the military getting here. We have rescues just lining up. People rescuing. The citizens rescued more people than anybody.
Well, and you bring up a point, because I remember specifically, we never liked or wanted the citizens to take their bateaus and their boats and get out in these waterways, because it was so dangerous. And we were always afraid it was going to get in y'all's way and the National Guard's way of trying to rescue people. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, I had a phone call, and I said, Mark, my homeland security, I said, get them out of the water. I said, Jason don't need that. The National Guard doesn't need that. We got to go rescue. And that turned around to, have y'all got anybody else with boats that can get in the water? And I don't know what we would have done had these volunteers not got their boats and got in the water, because as it turned out, they played a major role in helping our people.
It was overwhelming for us. It was overwhelming for your local fire departments. It was overwhelming for the sheriff's office. And, as far as our entities, we have probably more boats than anybody outside of Wildlife and Fisheries inside Livingston Parish. And we all ran out of boats. And the only reason we were able to rescue is the deputies were teaming up with citizens.
That's right.
And getting in their boats and rescuing people. I mean, every personal boat I had was out there. My friends' personal boats was, you were just somewhat commandeering boats, but most people were in them.
Yeah.
And it was all size boats. It wasn't just little bateaus. I've seen party barges riding around trying to rescue people. It was that
absolutely
like that.
I had a guy call from down south and said, y'all need to get your National Guard, get the Sheriff's Department, get these big vehicles out of here. They're pushing water up in. An hour later, have y'all got anybody you can send down here to help get us out of here? We're about to go under. I mean, this thing did. It just sit there, and people were not expecting it. I've said for years, you can talk to any engineer you want to, but if you really want to know what storm waters are going to do, talk to these people that live south of the interstate that have grown up and been here all their life. They'll tell you exactly what that water is going to do. Well, the water did crazy things with this one. It just stayed there. Like you said, went up, went down. We'd move people, have to go get them, move them again. And I'll never forget, and I've told people this, I wish there was just some way that people could stand in that EOC and watch how people operate. You would think it was that nobody got along. Everybody's hollering at one another. The tempers, the emotions are high.
Right.
Everybody's got a job and a role, and it looks like total chaos.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you realize everybody's got everything done that they were supposed to be done, and our citizens got through it once again. Yeah. And it's because what goes on behind the walls that nobody sees or knows. And they don't realize a lot of times, Jason, what you and I and other leaders go through, because you do feel responsible. When you got a couple that's 80, 84, 85, they've lost everything, they want you to help them, and you don't have anywhere to send them.
Right.
I mean, it just tears you up.
Well, you got to, and you have to stay focused. And, one of the things that I dealt with was the fact that my deputies, like I said, 89 of them lost everything.
That's right.
And I'm watching them. You are too, Layton. We're watching these deputies. And there's other first responders too. I'm only referring to my deputies. I know there's a lot of first responders went through the same thing, but I'm watching them, and they're breaking down emotionally.
Yeah.
For 5 or 10 minutes. And next thing you know, they're back in the car going to rescue somebody.
Absolutely.
And they're worried about their families. Where are they going to be sheltered? I'm trying to get them focused on their job. Trying to keep them focused mainly.
Yeah.
But also in the back of my head, which started becoming into the front of my head, was okay. These deputies are going to eventually cave on me.
They got to have somewhere to lay down.
I have to figure something out. And so that pressure started eating on me a lot of how I can get them whole, because my responsibility, the rescues were one thing. We had a lot of people helping, but I know you remember me saying, as I said, I was so worried about the looting.
Yeah.
I was so worried that we were going to lose our parish.
Well, you had
to
made
criminals.
some comments publicly about that too. I remember that.
I did,
very well.
and I was really concerned about it, because this is our parish. I've been here my entire life.
Yeah.
Most of my adult life, since I was 19 years old, I have helped protect the streets of Livingston Parish, and so that was my total focal point right there. I got to get these deputies whole. I got to get ready, and then we have a jail that's flooded. If you remember, we had to set up a little makeshift deal where we could still arrest and book people, because I remember the comments going out of, oh, well, we don't have a jail. Where are you going to put them at?
Exactly.
Oh, you just find out. Go on, do what you're going to do and find out. You're going to get arrested.
It was not the time to do anything wrong, I can promise you.
And then the deputies, they're running across several of the residents sitting on their porch with their, armed, ready with their gun, protecting their property, and which did not bother us at all. We welcomed it,
right.
Because hey, this is their parish too,
right? And
they were going to do what they could to protect their property, and it's so many of those things that go on. And the point I'm telling you is, but you have to stay focused.
You got to stay focused.
And one little thing could pull you off of focus, and you got somebody who's not getting rescued, or somebody that's a serious accident could happen. And again, we have 2 recorded fatalities, over 20,000 rescues, and that's just rescues that we were able to keep up with at EOC. I can imagine that is a very, very small percentage of what we actually rescued. There's no way to know with those fatalities. It was never proven it was storm related.
That's right.
It was just 2 recorded. I know both of them were medical. So we don't know if it was the pressure or the stress, maybe.
Right.
But there was nobody drowned or anything like that. But still, that's amazing to go through such a huge disaster the way it was, and to come out the way we did. Do you remember how many residents? I know there's a number in my head was affected by this flood.
Well, it was somewhere between, depending on numbers you listen to, 78 to 83% of the parish, and it was roughly, I think, at that time around 235,000, I believe, at that time.
Right.
I don't know the number, but I can tell you it was everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I've said it before. I said it to you. I've said it about you. I've said it in interviews. I would never, ever want to go through a disaster without you as my sheriff and the sheriff's department right there.
I appreciate that.
And I meant that seriously.
Well, I hope I never have to go through a disaster
I hope
again.
you don't either, and I hope the people in this parish never have to.
Right.
But when I tell you I saw, like you're talking about, deputies that were absolutely worn out,
mm-hmm.
They were. We had DPW workers in the same boat that were flooded, their homes flooded, their wives wanting them to be at home, but they're out here trying to help.
Right.
And that's what people do. And when you're criticized, like my position gets criticized a lot, just because of the nature of the
I wouldn't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know. Well, when you stop and think, man, you just wish you could so badly tell them what really is going on.
Right.
That they don't know, and you don't really want them to worry about all that stuff and know, because it's just your job.
Right.
You got to stay focused. You got to get your job done.
You do.
And again, in my case, I'm worried about the FEMA rules, but at the same time, I'm not.
Yeah.
Because my job, I felt like, was to take care of these people the best way I could, and that was put them wherever I could get them. I'll deal with the red tape later, which I had to do. But you're just responsible for your parish, like you said. You grow up, you lived here all your life. I've been here since 76,
mm-hmm.
So I feel like this is home. And I've said it 100 times at least, the people in this parish are what make our parish.
Mm-hmm.
They come together. They might fall apart politically. They might argue out in the middle of the street. They might go to one of these bars or whatever and then have a fist fight.
Yeah.
But you let something happen, or you let somebody come from outside, or these disasters, and they are standing there hand in hand to get the job done to help their neighbors.
Mm-hmm. They do.
And maybe they do that other places too, but I know in Livingston Parish they do. And without that, we would not have gotten through that 2016 flood.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say celebrate, like I said earlier, I'm talking about the way people came together to rebuild, to work together. You did your job. I did my job the best I could. All these firemen, everybody, police chiefs, everybody pitched in. The volunteers and the church groups I cannot say enough about because they really did. And, of course, after all that, I had to deal with the red tape from FEMA.
Yeah, look, and that's not easy.
That's part of it.
It's not easy. Look, man, I got, y'all know me. I was fighting with FEMA the whole time.
Yeah.
You and I are fighting together about the detention center because look, when you move those inmates out, and for me, we have so many DOC inmates that actually the sheriff's office we get money for that.
Right.
Well, when that moves out, that money directly affects my budget, and look, and I spent a pretty good bit of money on that detention center myself.
Oh, I know.
And
I know
you've been there, and those deputies are those inmates are somewhere else, and we're losing that income
while spending a ton of money at the same time.
And so let's say, we got 700 inmates, about 150 DOCs, roughly, maybe a little more. Let's just say 200 DOCs. So that's 500 parish inmates. And where were they at? We had to ship them somewhere. So guess who has to pay for that? Parish government does. That cost us money.
Yeah.
Like you guys is hitting your budget. Like we're having to pay to house these inmates, and it's not inmates we can just let out. These are felony hardened criminals. We went through there and figured which ones we could, get another court date for and move them around or whatever. But it's very few because we already over capacity. Right, we're already having to ship them out. So there's a lot of stuff when he says red tape, you're having to deal with FEMA to get your reimbursements. It could be years fighting with them. And so I'm fighting over this mobile home, basically housing for my deputy, and it winds up being for all first responders. And we wound up buying 30 or 40 mobile homes, and some people know the story, some people may not, but FEMA told me that, this is how we're going to do it. And so I followed them a little ways until I'm like, this is taking too long. And they're like, well, it's just a process. It's this. I said, well, I stopped, and on 1 minute or 1 day, I stopped and went my own route, but still followed bid law, still doing it. In 28 days, I actually set up a camp in 28 days and saved thousands of dollars. I actually had Mr. Garrett Graves who's going to come on our show, and he was instrumental. He was a congressman.
He was a fighter for us.
He was, and so I'm very excited about him coming on the show. He's actually after you today, Layton, and it's going to be, to hear his side. And he was there as far as boots on the ground, but all these things are stuff that goes on that you're having to deal with behind the scenes. But let's not forget, you're still having to make sure people have food, water, ice, set up these stations all over, making sure that you're, communicating with all the different entities in the parish. I'm making sure we fighting, looters. We got sheriff's officers and law enforcement coming in from everywhere. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Jason, it's a lot. And I can remember again, of course, I had the Homeland Security Director who is kind of key in all those things that are taking place. And he and I are just constantly talking, and he's having all kind of issues getting the supplies to get to the people. And then, of course, I'm getting the phone calls from the different fire chiefs and the different people that's in government. Yeah. Hey, man, we're waiting on this stuff, And so I'm constantly going back and forth to him. So it's all he and I can do not to go out into a dang fist fight while we love one another and cherish each other and how we feel about one another. At that particular time is, man, I don't want to hear any more about what you can't get. I got to get this down there. Well, he's telling the people he's talking to, I don't want to hear any more what you can't do. I got to get this stuff and get down there. And you're just constantly in a battle to get things done. It's all for people. I mean, you're all working together as a team, but that's what I meant earlier about tempers flare and emotions are high.
Well, you have all your districts, every area in our parish, and they have their own leadership, and that's the most important thing to them is that area.
Exactly right.
And you and I have the whole parish.
We got the whole parish. They're answering to their group just like we're answering to them and to the whole parish.
And for the most part, it really did start coming together after the first 3 or 4 days. The rescues were just And we describe it like this, and I'm going to say it again because it's true. It's like getting kicked in the gut when you least expect it, and it takes you a little while to catch your breath.
It does.
It just took us a minute, and once we caught our breath, once we was able to get a few things, lined out, meanwhile, our citizens are doing what they're doing. And our first responders are doing what they're doing, and they're steadily rescuing. Our military is doing what they're doing.
Absolutely.
All of our
they never stopped.
They never stopped. The rescues continued and went on, and it was again, it was very challenging, but it absolutely it changed me as a leader for sure. Like I do things differently. I learned a lot, and it was an emotional, stressful time for me, and which is expected. And
Absolutely.
I've been through Katrina and Rita and Gustav and Isaac and Ida and association president when Laura decided they were going to take out half of Louisiana. I've been there, done that, but this here was different. It wasn't get your chainsaw and cut a few trees out. It just was different. It was a different, unique challenge, but we came out of it. And I can tell you, if I had to wish for a disaster, and I hope I never have another one again, it would be a very mild hurricane with some trees down, not flooding waters, because flooding waters is just different. Yes.
I agree, Jason. I do, and again, I hate to keep saying it and repeating it, but I watched people come together that really they'll never know how much that actually helped me. Watching them fight so hard together to get things done. Right. You take the lumps and the bruises of things that you wished you would have known, things that you've learned, and you learn from those kind of disasters. Right. And like you, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. And, I hope we never, ever, or that y'all never, ever experience anything like that.
That's why you still live here?
I still live here, still have all my kids and all, but, it's so emotional, and this thing was so emotional even then that because I'm sure you hear it. I still hear it, and I'm not even in office now. When a heavy rain like what we're talking about coming possibly Thursday morning, people, that's the first thing they start thinking about is what they went through in the 2016 flood. So I don't know that people will ever completely let it go. I know a lot of people rebuilt their homes, but they didn't go back, and I don't mean this like it sounds, but they didn't go back with top-level stuff because they were afraid they were going to flood again. I would hear these stories repeatedly, and it just would break your heart because people lost everything.
Well, it's when they rebuild, they don't understand it. None of us understood it, and it's like the fact that you get 40 inches of rain is not expected. Right. No matter, look at Watson, how high ground it is.
Exactly.
It is the place the last place. Matter of fact, it would be the place that we all go to if the water's coming up from the south.
If you go stay in the parish, you're going to Watson.
Right. And it was the first place to go. And that was very devastating in itself. And it was, again, so much water. And I think Avoyelles Parish just went through it. Same thing. I think they had, 30, seemed like it was 28 or 30 inches of rain dumped on their parish. Same thing, flooding they've never seen before. You cannot ever predict Mother Nature.
Nope.
You're not going to do it. Nope. Are we going to flood again? I hope we don't, but is there a possibility? There's always a possibility because it happened once. It means it can happen again.
It means it can happen again under the right circumstances.
But
it's not that parish government and even the current parish president, it's not that they're not doing their work out here.
Right.
When you get that water that sits there like that and that wind changes out of the southeast, it's going to rise. And if it hovers over your parish for 2 or 3 days, seems like it's got to go somewhere. It's going up.
Yeah.
It's got to go up.
And then you pour, was it 30-something inches of rain on top of it, or 40? It's so it varies, but still.
Our subdivision had never flooded. We had just moved in 2 weeks prior to the flood. The furniture had just come 4 days before the flood. No flood insurance.
Yeah.
No one ever thought that would flood, but it did. And there's stories like that all over the parish. So we've learned a lot from that flood, and like you said, you've learned a lot in how to do things maybe a little differently, and I know we learned a lot. But the one thing that stuck to me that I never ever forgot that I made sure I told people was, these guys in Washington D.C. for FEMA, they've got a job to do, and they're looking at a computer screen or a book, and they're looking at numbers and on and on and on. The guys on the ground, because I would hear FEMA on the ground get criticized, those were people on the ground trying to help. They were doing everything they could to help us within the guidelines that they're being told out of Washington, D.C. they've got to go by.
Right.
I understood that. Most of the people around here, they don't, because I would hear comments about them. Those were some good people. A lot of them volunteers, a lot of them paid by FEMA to try to help us work through the process. It's not an easy process. It needs to be completely revamped. One of the things I told the governor when I met with him after this was he brought his staff out and wanted to know what can we, what could we do differently, because we couldn't get across the bridge. I've often wondered, why can't you allow parishes to stock up on what is commonly and normally used in these disasters?
Right.
Now, I realize you got to keep track, because I understand the reimbursement process, and that to me would help a lot if there was some way that the parish government could stockpile.
Right.
Now, it would go bad over a period of time, and because you certainly hope you never have a disaster.
And
but outside of that, what do? If you can't cross the bridge, you can't cross it.
Right. Look, we had one way in, and it took us 2 hours to get anything from Baton Rouge. I think it was about 2 hours. We escorted several trucks for you guys, if I remember right.
You did.
Supply trucks, trying to get them in here.
Trying to get them across.
But
we had cows on the interstate, hunting higher ground. I mean, you know the story. I mean, I'm on the opposite side of the interstate, and there's cows on the road. What do you do? I said, go around them. I don't know what else to take. Go around them. We got to get these people some help. And yes, y'all did. We couldn't have done it without you. I'm just telling you, the guys. I don't know how much. I don't know if the deputies ever realized, and I say deputies, sheriff's department, ever realized how much we appreciated the partnership in these disasters. I know I know that, because you and I talk about it. But
and they did. Look, they recognize
they
do, and they recognize they were here. Their boots were on the ground, but there's so many photos. If you go through and you look, normally you see several deputies together. In these photos, if you really pay attention, you see a deputy, a firefighter, a citizen. Yeah, it was different.
Oh yeah,
they were just splitting up, doing what they could do, and trying to find boats, trying to do anything and everything to keep their parish whole, and it said a lot about them. Yeah, and I'm proud of each and every one of them. I've said that many times. We're very blessed to have the office that we have. Absolutely. And these deputies do such a great job. And look, they live here. Most of their kids go to school here. They are invested here in Livingston Parish.
Yes.
And they care about what happens on the streets of
Absolutely,
Livingston Parish.
They do.
And so those guys, they take it personal, and I want them to. They have a sense of ownership over the parish, and that's you want them to have that attitude. Right. So they care more. But Layton, it did so many things, so many lessons learned during that time. And, here we are today, 10 years ago. Can't believe it's been that long.
I've been through 3 houses since trying to find the right place.
Yeah, right. And just, and you can't help it in my mind. Like when I seen the little storm that's brewing right now, I'm thinking, man, I hope that thing stays south of us, because the southeast wind's coming in and 10, 15 inches of rain. And now look, that's half of what we got last time, but it's still, you can't help but think.
It crosses your mind, and
the more south it goes, the more happier I am. Yeah. And so far,
you never wish it on anyone else, but you just don't want to deal with it yourself, because it's gut wrenching. Yes. It tears your heart up. And I'm like with my kids, and everybody that has kids understood. It certainly wasn't just my kids that were going through this. Right. But, one of them, my youngest daughter, was pregnant at the time, and they were flooding. Mm-hmm. And, Dad, what'd I do? Come get me. And then I got 2 others out here. Dad, you got to come get me. And I said, I can't right this minute, but I'll get help to you. And, of course, y'all, you and I had that conversation.
It's tough being a dad.
I was that close to losing it. Yeah. If you hadn't walked up on me when you did, or we got together, I was that close to losing it for a few minutes.
Well, we needed you to focus on what you were doing, and I knew that we had to get them to a safe area where you could focus on being the parish president, and that's something that you have to deal with. And I've seen areas fail because of that. Yeah. I've watched it. You've seen it. Yeah. Where their leadership is, and look, for whatever, I'm not there, so I don't know the reason, but I have seen areas fail because leadership was not involved in a way that they could do their job because maybe it was something that they did lose someone or whatever. So we're very fortunate to go through what we went through to come out the way we did. I think it, without a doubt, made us a better parish.
I agree. I agree.
I know it made my office a lot better. It made your office better. When we have disasters, it is just different because our communication is a different level now. I remember having a little bit of almost zero communication with just our firefighters, our first responders outside the sheriff's office years and years ago. No rhyme or reason, no finger pointing, and we just didn't have great communication.
Right. Everybody did their own thing.
And every disaster, that was the number one problem, was communication.
Yeah.
This one was different because you remember AT&T towers went down, so we had limited communication. But it was one point where we had, okay, we're going to do something better. We have to figure it out. And, we set up our mobile command posts at different little areas of the parish until we were able to gain that control we needed. And so, again, communication is always a struggle in so many ways, because if you rely on a radio and that's all you rely on and it goes down, and then you turn around, you're using a phone and that's all you have and this goes down. And and then everybody's on different pages, because whenever you start having citizens doing their part, which was rescuing people, and they're not communicating that, they don't have to, right?
Right.
So it's a lot going on, but it all worked out.
It really did. For
the betterment of Livingston Parish. And one of the things that I want to make sure you and I talk about, because I'm pretty sure that you was one of the only people that I've interviewed so far that got to see what I seen. But the moment that I knew that we were going to be okay in this parish was when I went up in the helicopter. And I looked across our parish, and as far as you could see was those debris piles in front of people's houses. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Those white, you could see the insulation. It was everything they owned.
Everything.
And they just put it out to the road, and you could see them moving around the yard, mowing grass, weeding, like Absolutely. They were rebuilding. And I'm talking like on day 5 or 7, this was going on.
Absolutely.
As soon as they knew that the water is going down, everything's good, it started. And it was just something I needed as the sheriff of Livingston Parish. I needed to see that.
Well, I needed, when you took me up and I saw the devastation and, like you said, the piles, it brought the reality of it.
Yeah.
When you're in the trenches, you're dealing with every by minute.
You know it's bad, but you can't
know,
picture.
And you're hearing and you're talking and you're sending people left and right everywhere you can possibly get them. But when you actually see it, it was
a different level.
It's unbelievable. I mean, it can either break you or make you.
Yep.
And in this case, like you said, people helping one another. We couldn't have done it without the people. My office would not have survived.
None of us would have. This was absolutely a devastating time. We survived. We got together. We did what we did, and became a better community because of that. And so.
Well, and like you touched on a little bit earlier too, Jason, I believe strongly in faith. I believe strongly in God, and I think He's absolutely present. And to know that we didn't lose a lot of people when by all means we should have.
Yeah.
I think was just a blessing from Him.
It was.
I've thrown this at you. You can handle this. The people will rebuild. And I told people that repeatedly, not that I had to tell them, they knew, but repeatedly, but we haven't lost anybody.
Right.
We can rebuild. We'll help you rebuild. I didn't realize what a job that was going to turn out to be from FEMA, but we can help you rebuild, but we can't replace people.
Right.
And like you mentioned, the 2, we still don't know that was.
No, I mean, it was still a loss, and it's a sad. It's always a sad time when that happens. Yes. And but it was for the events you see going around our world. We're very fortunate people here in Livingston Parish to have what we do, and I look like I appreciate you giving me some time to come on my show. And
it's been my pleasure.
And it's been really nice the last few days visiting with these different individuals and remembering the flood of 2016 and the lessons learned and things that we have been through who made us closer friends.
Yep.
And in challenging times where you lean on each other, and it was boom. Give me 1 second. I actually wasn't getting emotional either. All right. Anyway, it was just a good time in my career. Well, let me say it was a time in my career that I will never forget. That flood was the most challenging thing that I've ever been through in my entire life, and not just. And I'm talking about even outside. Like, that was the most challenging time for me, and I really gave myself like a F and a D. I'm telling you.
No.
Until other people had told me
No.
different things, and through time, it's just how but when you come out of it, that was just what I was dealing
Right.
with. But when I came out of it, and I had, different people, one of them was a former sheriff Woodard Graves, and he's like, "What are you talking about, son? That was your shining moment. That was your, blah, blah, blah. You did great." And I mean, you got to understand that. And it's like, well, sometimes you're so focused on everything we're not accomplishing that you're forgetting about what we are accomplishing.
Absolutely.
Because once it's getting accomplished, I left it alone.
But that's when you get that breath later, you could think about that. You don't have time at the time.
And then you go through, and especially this week, you're just talking to different ones about what we're talking about, and hearing the different stories and the rescues and this and that. And it's like, man, I don't even remember that. And but it was a time that actually brought us together. And yes, God is not going to put you in a situation that He knows you can't handle.
Nope.
I do believe that, and that's just
He puts
my
people
belief.
where He
and
wants them to.
He does, and we were all in the right place at the right time, and what we was able to get through, and we're better people for what we went through, and we're better parish today. So, but anyway.
Well, it's been my pleasure, and like you, when y'all had called and asked about would I come out, I had my little few minutes of tears.
Yeah.
It just brought it all.
It does. You can't
Right
but
back.
think about it. It does. It was.
There were friendships made. People came together that, like I said, I know some that just really didn't like one another, but came together and are still friends today. Politics can separate you. Arguments over ball games can separate you for a little while, but when you go through what we went through, you don't ever forget that.
Right.
And you come together, and you never lose sight of what you mean to one another, how you got each other through those different times. And Jason, people did. They got each other through those times.
Yeah.
FEMA can only do so much. They could only reimburse so quickly. There's all the red tape that you went through, we have to go through. But in the meanwhile, these people never stopped.
Right.
They rebuilt, and we're a better parish today for it. I hope and pray
I
we
can
never
tell you
go
one
through
thing.
it again.
That's right.
But we're a
Well,
better parish for it.
FEMA knows who Livingston Parish is.
Yes, they do.
I mean, they do know that.
And that guy coming on next made sure, even though you did and I did, he made sure they knew too.
He did, yeah. He's a great friend. Can't wait to get him on here. But Layton, thank you for coming out today.
My pleasure.
It was good to see you, catching up. I hadn't seen you in a
Good
while.
to see you too, sir.
And we just appreciate your service here to Livingston Parish.
Thank you.
And I know that you gave it all you could while you were here, and
did.
it's greatly appreciated. So with that, we're gonna wrap up this episode of Behind the Scenes with Sheriff Jason Ard. Thanks my friend Layton Ricks, former parish president of Livingston Parish, coming on and sharing some of his stories and things he remembered. And as always here in Livingston Parish, we want to tell you that, hey, download our app, listen to us on social media. If you follow us, like what we're doing, let us know what's going on out there. Keep the communication up. And as always here in Livingston Parish, we love our churches, we love our schools, and we absolutely believe in the Second Amendment.